Hi guys, this is Ali with Ali So Crafty. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made the Sunshine Wristlet by Bagstock Design. Now, I am not going to do the tutorial because there are several tutorials already on YouTube. They're really good. So there's no need for me to do this tutorial. Plus, I didn't reach out to the pattern designer to ask if it was okay for me to do this. But this is a free pattern, so I feel confident that it's okay. It's a free pattern. You can go to her website, and I'll put the link down in the description, and go ahead and get the pattern. Like I said, it's free, and it is a great beginner's pattern. I mean, I absolutely love it so much that I made two. Actually, let me turn it around. I made two of these, okay? And the one I'm going to show you today is the one with the front strap. I made some modifications. This one I made exactly how she lists in her pattern. In this one, I made some modifications, which is what I'm going to show you today. Now, if you're a beginner sewer, this is a great pattern because you see these curves right here. They're great to start practicing sewing curves. These are really wide, so it will be easy for you to handle as you take your fabric under the needle. So it will be very easy. There's no hardware. It will be a great beginner's bag to practice putting a zipper as well as a zipper pocket, okay? So what I'm going to do today is show you the modifications I made. Starting with the inside of the bag, like I mentioned, I didn't use foam for this one. I used Fusible Fleece. So I'm going to show you how I was able to fuse the fleece to the waterproof canvas, because waterproof canvas on the sides and quilting cotton in the center. You have to fuse your exterior to that structure, to the foam or the fusible fleece. So I'm going to show you how I was able to do that, the technique that I use for that. Also, I'm going to show you how I make the interior zipper pockets. The technique that I used is a little bit different to what she teaches, and it actually has worked for me, so I wanted to share that with you. Also, the second one that we're making today, I changed the slip pocket in the center, and so now this one has two slip pockets in comparison to the original where she has one slip pocket. So I'm going to show you how I did that. And also I'm going to show you how I get the top of the wristlet to show the zipper tabs like that, and the technique that I use when I'm doing the assembly of the wristlet right at the end, that you have to sew your exterior and your lining, which the lining is usually a little bit, the seam allowance is wider than the exterior. So I'm going to show you how the technique that I use to make sure that I do it right, and how I make sure that this looks okay here on the top of the wristlet. But like I said, this is a great beginner's bag. Look how cute this little touch here, how she gives that front strap. I think it's so feminine. I think it really is a bag that you will be making several of them. Obviously, I also love the wristlet here. And for the next ones, I think I'm going to try using the foam because I really like the structure of the foam, how sturdy it feels. But I want to try using quilting cotton on the inside instead. But other than that, I mean, it's a very easy pattern that it really is worth having. And this is like an hour long type of project. So if you have gifts to make real quick, this is a great gift that you can just make in an hour. It doesn't take a lot of fabric. And the reason why I used Fusible Fleece, because sometimes we don't have foam. We have, other type of interfacing. So you can, I wanted to try something different. So the timestamps are below. So if you want to jump to a specific step, you can do that. I put the timestamps down in the video. You can save this video and watch it later when you're making your Sunshine Wristlet to look at those modifications. And if you haven't subscribed just yet, please consider doing that and hit the notification button so that you can get notifications when I upload the next video. And if at any point you like what you see, would you please hit the like button? It helps me more than you know. Okay, you guys, thank you so much and enjoy the video. So this pattern, like I mentioned, is a free pattern. And this is an optional step. It is something that really helps me when I am cutting fabric. So what I've been doing is that I go to the dollar store and I get these plastic mats. They're like in the kitchen section. And they're thin enough that you can cut them with the scissors. And they're see-through. So that way you can trace your pattern, cut them, and then you can place this on your fabric and you can just trace your fabric with your pattern and that's it. You create your own template. And because they're see-through, they're great if you want to do some fussy cutting. That way you can see exactly where the fabric design is before you cut the pattern. So you can create your own templates with these type of plastic mats that you can buy from the dollar store. So that's definitely an optional step. You don't have to do that. You can just cut the paper pattern and trace it directly onto the fabric. But this is how I do it. So for this, and then what I do also, I write down the name of the pattern and what piece is this. So this is the exterior and how many pieces I need to cut from this pattern piece and what material, right? Exterior, lining, interfacing, whatever. So here I have my 4 pieces for this side. Then I have the pieces for the center right here. And this is cut on the fold. This is the fold. So this you open in half. Now for the lining, what I did is that the pattern and the paper is half of the lining. And it has here the fold. What I did is that I traced it twice and I just taped it together in the center so that I could have the entire piece. And I guess you can do the same for the center piece here, the exterior center panel. I could trace a second one and kind of tape it together so that I could see. I did that on purpose so that I could see the entire size of my final product. And that helped me because when I was going to cut the lining with this cotton fabric, this was a fat quarter. And so I was able to place the entire pattern piece, the entire template on my fat quarter to know exactly how much I need or if I have enough fabric to even cut the lining. You will also need a zipper. I buy the zipper by the yard usually. And so you will need 2 pieces of zipper, a small piece for the zipper pocket and then a longer piece for the top of this wristlet. Definitely get the number 5 zipper tape. That's usually what looks good on bags and wristlets and things like that. And for this version of the Sunshine Wristlet, I am doing a combination of cotton fabric for the exterior and waterproof canvas, and cotton fabric for the lining. So I know I told you to go ahead and join them, the front and the sides, for both front and back together. And I did that, and then I realized that I needed to include the front strap to one of my exterior panels here. So I didn't do that. So now I have to take it apart. With my seam reaper, just one of the exterior sides, not both, because I have to add the front strap. So yes, I just wanted to show you how, following the pattern steps is so important. Now that I finished with my seam reaper, I wanted to show you how this seam reaper works. Because I didn't even know this existed, and now that I discover it, I'm so excited. So I finished with my project, taking the pieces apart, right? And you see all that thread that is left over. Sometimes you have all that extra thread and you don't know what to do with it, and you're like kind of picking at it. Well, with this part of the seam reaper, you can just take it off like that. Look how easy it's like an eraser. It's like a thread eraser. Look at that. It's amazing. I love it. It's like having an eraser for your thread. Look how cool that is. And it takes it right off. So you don't have to keep pulling one by one, because not only you have to take the seam apart, but then you have to take every little piece of thread, and look, it gets stuck in there. It leaves it in there, ready for me to just throw it in the trash. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. It's amazing. And so I'm going to do it on this side too. This side's kind of hard to tell where the thread is, because it is very close to the color of the fabric. But look, there it is. No more thread. In this part, you are to attach the foam interfacing to these exterior panels. But I don't have foam, I have Fusible Fleece, because I decided to do that this time. And it's fusible, right? So I could easily take an iron and just fuse it to the exterior panel. However, because I'm using waterproof canvas, this PVC here won't allow me to do that. It will not stick. So I'm going to try this basting adhesive. It's the same that I use for when I do embroidery projects. And I'm just going to take it. And actually, I am going to spray the adhesive to the fusible side of the Fusible Fleece. And so we just spray a little bit like that. You cannot see it. And then I'm going to take my exterior, flip it, right? So the sticky side is, this is the sticky side against the exterior panel. And I will make sure I aligned all the pieces together. Okay. Oh. Okay, let me do it again. See how this is kind of, I don't want any bubbles. I don't want the fabric to look bumpy. I want it to be smooth. And I may iron just this section right here, the fabric there. And you know, I see there's a little bit of Fusible Fleece sticking out here. It's fine. I can just cut that, trim it off. It doesn't have to be exact because obviously I can trim that off. And when I stitch it, it's obviously going to be part of the seam. Okay, so after taking this to my presser, the iron, it's kind of like a heat press, but anyway, I was able to see to fuse the fleece to the cotton fabric, but it doesn't stick to the waterproof canvas. You see, now this is PVC, so this is a little bit of a plastic, so it will melt a little bit, but not enough to damage the fabric, obviously, or not enough to stick the Fusible Fleece to the material, but it's almost there. Of course, if I leave it alone, it will stay in place, but it definitely fused in the center here. So I'm going to do the same to this side. So I have this steam press, and it doesn't really do steam. I bought it on Facebook Marketplace, but it's fine. So I, you know, do the settings here, and I do the cotton settings, and I am putting the exterior panel here, and I usually cover it with a piece of cloth because of the waterproof canvas. I could put several pieces in and heat them up at the same time. And this is the setting for cotton. Stop. And there you go. It's fused. It's really fused together there. It's not going anywhere. So this is ready to go to the next step. Let's make the interior zipper pocket. For this pattern, she says that we need to draw a rectangle that is 6 inches wide and 3/8 of an inch high on the wrong side of the lining panel. So this is my lining panel on the wrong side, right, where the interfacing is. And this is going to be 2 inches down from the top of the lining panel. Now, in order for me to know the exact distance in the middle, I fold my piece of lining in half, and I use one of my erasable pen, and I just mark a little line right there in the center. Okay, so that's the center, and I align that center to my mat here. So the both edges of the lining panel are along some of the markings here of my mat, and that is my half point. Then I take my ruler, and I'm going to measure following the lines here in the center. What I'm going to do to make it easier on me is I'm just going to place my half point marking along one of the lines here of my mat, and then I'm going to place my ruler on the mat, matching the markings between the mat and the ruler. And so here I have 2 inches down, and this is the center point, 2 inches down. And then she says to do a 6-inch wide rectangle. So if this is my half point, that means I have to draw a line 3 inches to the right and 3 inches to the left for my 6-inch. So there's the first 3 inches and then the other 3 inches. Okay? So make sure that you mark that good. She says the height of her rectangle is 3/8 of an inch. I do 1/2 inch because it's easier for me to do the measurements on the ruler and half of the rectangle and all that. And I'll show you in just a minute. So what I do is I just lower, keep, the center, and I lower my ruler to 1/2 inch. So now it's 2.5 inches from the top. And I'll do the same. I'll mark my line, my 6 inches, right? So 3 here and 3 here. Okay. And then to close the rectangle, all I do is draw a little line right at the end of the 2 lines, and I have my rectangle. Now I'm going to create a marking in the center of this rectangle that is going to be right in the middle of this. So if this is 1/2 inch height, is 1/2 inch, then half of that is 1/4 inch. So I am going to take my ruler and place the markings right here on the top of my line and 1/4 inch, or you can do 2.25 inches from the top of your lining panel, and that is the mark, the half point of the rectangle. Then I'm going to place a point 1/4 inch in from the sides of the rectangle. So 1/4 inch here, I'm just gonna place a point, and 1/4 inch here, I'm just going to place a point. Okay, and then I'm going to draw the line from that point to the next point, right in the center of the rectangle. Okay, it's a little bit crooked, but it'll be fine. Let me make sure this is 2.5, and then this is my center point, and this is my 9. Okay, so it's right here. I drew it a little too long. Okay, perfect. So now from the dot, you're going to draw a V from the dot to the corner of the rectangle there, and the other corner here. And you're going to do the same on the other side. From the dot, on the other side, sorry. From the dot, you're going to draw a line and another line, creating 2 V's. Okay? Now you're going to take one of the pieces of fabric for your zipper pocket. You're going to flip your lining right side facing you, and you're going to place the pocket fabric on top of that lining, 1 inch down from the top. So 1 inch down, and just make sure that it's centered, somehow. Okay, so here it is, right? You have your 2 center markings. I just take a little piece of that double-sided tape, 1/4 inch, and I just place it right there. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to stitch this in place. I just don't want my fabric to move as I'm walking to the sewing machine. I don't want my fabric to just move out of the place. But there it is. And just to make sure that my fabric did not move, that's my half point. That's my half point, and that is my 1 inch down, and there it is. Now when I take it to the sewing machine, it'll be fine. It won't move. Then you're going to take it to the sewing machine, and on the wrong side where you did the drawing, you're going to stitch along the rectangle. I always stitch twice to reinforce it, because we're getting ready to use the seam reaper, and we're going to cut in the center, and we're going to be working with this fabric a lot, and so it's always best to have it reinforced. And here's where the zipper is going to go, which is an area that will be used a lot, right? You're opening and closing your zippers quite a bit, I'm assuming. So you want to make sure that this area is strong. When you get here to the corners, cut as close as you can to the edge of your rectangle by cutting the V really close to the stitch line, but without cutting the stitch line. It helps it when it's time to move the fabric, the zipper fabric, through the hole, push it through the hole, and you have to smooth the corners out like that. It will keep it from getting all wrinkled here. That will help the fabric spread better, and so it will give your zipper pocket a smooth, professional look. So it's important that you cut as close as you can to the stitching line without cutting the stitching, of course. Now, another tip that is useful when you're using 100% cotton, like in this case, sometimes it works with waterproof canvas or any other fabric that you can actually apply a little bit of heat. But if you're using vinyl, it's not good for that. But it's when after you have pushed the fabric through the hole for your zipper panel, I take some starch, some of this. I use this a lot. It's light whole starch and a hot iron, and I press it, and look how stiff it is. I mean, this is like, I press it really good. It's super flat, it's super stiff, and it really helps to maintain when you're adding a zipper. There's like the layer of the zipper, and then you have the two layers of the fabric, you know, the lining plus the pocket, and it gets bulky and it gets a little difficult to handle. This I find is very easy to handle because the fabric is pretty much stiff and not moving much, and so I can place my zipper like so, and it will stay in place, and I can measure it. I can make sure that it's in the right place. And then what I do, I take my double-sided tape, and I don't place the tape on the entire zipper. Just a little piece in the center will work, especially because this is a smaller zipper too, right? So I just place the tape right there, and I peel it off. Okay, and I simply take my piece of fabric, place the zipper pull in the center there, and I just place my piece of fabric right there. Try to center it as much as I can, and that's it. And the fabric doesn't move around. The zipper didn't move around. I just find that that is a quick and easy way to make sure my cotton fabric, and sometimes the waterproof canvas, you can apply heat to the waterproof canvas and it will give in and will make it softer, and then you can handle it better and will make it way easier to apply your zipper to your zipper pocket. Okay, so for the slip pocket, I am going to make a modification. So this is another change I made to this version. I took a piece of fabric, and I left the measurements down in the description, and I folded it in half lengthwise like this. I took my pattern that I made, you know, with a template, and trace around it, cut it so that you can have the curves. And now I'm going to open it up, and this is how it looks. I took it to the iron and I pressed it with heat, make sure it was nice and crisp, and I took it to the sewing machine and I top stitched it right here at the edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So now I'm going to take it and match the bottom of the slip pocket to the bottom of the lining piece, the one without the zipper pocket. Okay. And when I was doing this, I realized, you know, I use the mat a lot to measure things. And so I wanted to be even. I wanted to be straight. So the distance from the top of the lining to the top of the slip pocket, it's 3.5 inches. So I'm using the mat to measure that. So 1, 2, 3.5, and there it is. And then 1, 2, 3.5. Perfect. So now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine. I'm going to pin it all around it. And I'm going to join the slip pocket to the lining panel by basting it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the bottom. And basting is about 4 millimeter stitch length. After attaching the slip pocket to the lining panel, I went ahead and I marked the center here, and I stitched the center at a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. That will give me actually 2 slip pockets. Now continue with the next step, which is to join the front of the panel, the front exterior panel, to the zipper. And now we're going to add this lining panel that has the slip pockets to the exterior, and we're going to kind of sandwich the zipper and do the same. Continue those steps from her pattern, and once we get to the end, when we're joining finishing the assembly of the wristlet, I'm going to show you the next tip. So for the final assembly, we're going to join the 2 lining pieces together and the 2 exterior pieces like this. Okay, so the 2 exterior, the 2 lining. We are going to stitch all around both pieces. You're not going to leave an opening, because this pattern, she says that you're going to birth your bag, your wristlet, or turn it inside out through the zipper pocket. So make sure your zipper is open, okay, before you stitch all of it it's easier if it's open now. Now, let's go ahead, and what I like to do is, to make it a little easier on me, I like to match all my seams before I start stitching, okay? So for example, you see how this is the inside of the pocket, the wristlet, and this is the outside of the wristlet. These are my zipper tabs, and I like for when my wristlet is finished, for the finished project, I like for it to, I want to be able to see the zipper tabs here. So when I'm joining the two exterior pieces together, I make sure to push the zipper tab towards the exterior of the wristlet, okay? And then I make sure that here the seam matches both exteriors and lining together. So let me join it here so you can clearly see. So I'm making sure that my zipper tab is pushed towards the exterior, and I get my two seams to match here. And then I use a wonder clip or any clip that you use and join it there and make sure it's in place. And then you're going to do the same on the other side. I look at my zipper and I push the zipper tab towards the exterior of my wristlet, and then I just make sure that my seams match right there, and holding on to it, I grab a clip and I clip it in place. So now I can start joining the rest of the wristlet in place, knowing that my seams are matching. Okay. Another thing that I do that helps me is with, she explains in her pattern that you're going to stitch the exterior at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, the lining at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You want the lining to be a little bit smaller. That way when you are turning it inside out and you're, pushing the lining inside the wristlet, is not wrinkly, it's smooth and tight. So it does need to be a little bit smaller. So what I do to make sure that this is actually, I'm stitching a little bit, wider seam allowance, then here I mark my fabric, because I just want to make sure that I am not making it too tight or too loose. Okay, so what I do is that I take my ruler here and I find the 3/8 of an inch marking. This is a 1/4 inch and that's 3/8 of an inch, and I mark right there. Okay, and I'm going to do the same on this side. Actually, let me move this a little further out. Okay, and I find the 3/8 of an inch marking on my ruler. I have a smaller ruler, I just don't know where it is right now. Okay, so that's the 3/8 of an inch. I will continue that here, it's fine. 3/8 of an inch right there. But here, when I get to the lining needs to be 5/8 of an inch, right? So what I'm going to do, I just mark here 5/8 of an inch. Okay, and then I take the marking from 3/8 of an inch to the 5/8 of an inch, and I draw a line. That way, see right there, this is the 3/8 of an inch, and I draw a line. So that way, when I'm stitching, it doesn't just go straight from 3/8 of an inch and then 5/8 of an inch. No, it's smoothly going down. Then I do the same on this side, from 3/8 of an inch to 5/8 of an inch. And then I continue here, but so that way it goes down smoothly, and it's not a sharp change of seam allowance. And so that is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to stitch it starting here, 3/8 of an inch, go down the line that I drew, 5/8 of an inch all around, go that way. Make sure that here is 3/8 of an inch, continue 3/8 of an inch until I get here. And I reinforce the stitching here by the zipper. So I lock stitch on the top. I stitch about 2 or 3 times back and forth on both sides.